A leaked memo from the DOJ says there is no Epstein client list. Whatever do you mean? It also says there is no evidence that would predicate any criminal investigation into any third parties relating to anything that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein had done. And for the sake of transparency, we're going to put out a full video, 11 hours of showing no one entering or leaving the SHU. So that was the leak. Now I have for you officially pulled up from justice.gov, the memo on the government's website where you can click the link and watch the video on the government website where, well, for one thing, Pam Bondi said the client list was on her desk. Now, when Fox asked her about this, I believe it was today, Carolyn Levitt said she was referring to all of the documents related to Epstein. Sure. She also said there was tens of thousands of videos. So where are those videos? And then here's the crazy part. We looked through, not all of, but some of the video released by the DOJ. At the 11:58 minute mark, there is a minute cut from the footage. And then a guy walks in, opens a door, and walks through it. So I have no idea what that video footage is supposed to be. This story is very weird. No one signed the memo. We have no idea why it's on the justice.gov website. Nobody's issued any statements. Strange. So we're going to talk about that. But we also have, it's really crazy, guys. So we got this professor out of UC Santa Barbara who said that the chance of civil war is substantially greater than zero. California may at some point try to declare independence. J.D. Vance will be president. He'll then send in National Guard. Civil war is coming. Now, I think he's wrong in his timeline of 10 years. See, this weekend on the 4th of July, a cop was shot in front of an ICE facility by ICE protesters. This morning, ICE agents were ambushed by a shooter and they shot and killed him. Democrats have issued a statement, a report showing their constituents are telling them to do something that will get them shot. They are saying they must resist Trump with violence. This is insane. I can't believe I'm even saying all of these things in one opening segment. It's going to be nuts. So we're going to talk about all of that and more. Before we get started, we got a great sponsor. It is Bearskin. Check out this amazing jacket. This is so cool. I don't wear that hoodie anymore because so this Bearskin jacket, this is the rain jacket. It's been raining like crazy up here. But there's also the fleece. I like that too. But this is the rain jacket. Shout out to Bearskin for sending the crew all of these. These are really nice. This one's super light, very thin, but it can zip into the fleece hoodie. So it becomes like this heavy rain jacket, or you can take the rain jacket off, make it a little bit lighter but still warm, or you can just wear the rain jacket and it's super breathable. It's very, very cool. I very much like it. It's my favorite rain jacket, in fact. So big shout out. When it starts to rain, hands down, this is the one that I go for. I have it sitting next to me at all times. It folds into its own stash pocket. You can zip it up, fold it up. 100% fully waterproof, taped seams, silicone sealed zips, adjustable cuffs, face shielding hood. Very cool. 5 waterproof pockets. That's very amazing. The best part is it zips right into the Bearskin fleece hoodie to become a 3-in-1 all-weather system. And right now, you can get 60% off. But just by texting Tim to the number 36912, you'll lock in your deal. I'll send you a link. You can use it wherever you go. Or you can go to baer.skin/Tim, link in the description below. Once again, text Tim to 36912. They'll send you that link. Maybe you're driving in your car right now. You don't got time. Just do it. And they'll send you the link. You get this whole system. It's amazing. 60% off. Shout out to Bearskin. I really do. This is a really amazing jacket. It's so awesome. Anyway, we also have got 3 big live events coming up. Go to dccomedyloft.com. Check the events calendar. The link is also in the description below. And we've got July 26th, August 2nd, and August 9th for our live Culture War taping. It's at 3 p.m. It's a taping. It's not a late night show. And there will be after parties. Probably a little light, but we're figuring those out. And it's going to be with our Discord members. So you guys don't want to miss it. You want to be there for sure. August 2nd, Michael Malice, Angry Cops, Debating Policing. And it's probably going to be our funniest show ever. So I hope to see you there. You better get your tickets. They're selling quickly. For July 26th, which is coming up very soon, we've got some potential big names. We can't confirm just yet, but this may be an actual, decently large and weird debate. So make sure you grab your tickets while you can. I think based on the agents that we've been going through, it's possible July 26th sells out really, really quickly once we announce the guests, but I don't know. We haven't confirmed anybody yet. August 9th is also available, so definitely check that out. Don't forget to smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Yoram Hazony.
Evening.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm the chairman of an organization called the Edmund Burke Foundation. We put on national conservatism conferences. These are events that were created in the wake of Donald Trump, Brexit. Nationalism became a big thing in America and around the world just a few years ago. I wrote a book called The Virtue of Nationalism, explaining why that's a good thing, why you should be a nationalist. You should be, care about putting your own country first.
We have a lot to talk about. Right now, today, there were massive ICE raids in L.A. The mayor came out, was fighting with cops. I mean, I shouldn't say fighting, but she was getting up, in their faces, and she was yelling, saying, get out of my town and things like that. So very much the illegal immigration debate will be pretty big. So good to have you. We got Brandon hanging out.
What's up, Tim? What's up, everybody? I am Brandon Miner, producer, co-host for Inverted World Live. Happy to be here. Phil.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We've got this from Axios.com. Exclusive. DOJ, FBI conclude Epstein had no client list and died by suicide. As we all suspected the DOJ would claim later on. Anyway, they say President Trump's Justice Department and FBI have concluded they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was murdered, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. The administration is releasing a video in both raw and enhanced versions that it says indicates no one entered the area of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held the night he died in 2019. The video supports a medical examiner's finding that Epstein died by suicide, the two-page memo claims. Okay, let's stop right there. So this memo comes out, and we end up with all these crazy tweets. Everybody's pissed off. And one of the arguments that people were making is that the memo is fake. Indeed, it is not real. It was signed by nobody. Okay, well, I have the memo for you right here, justice.gov. You can plainly see it. I'm gonna highlight this right now. See me? There we go. I'm gonna press enter. There it is. I pressed enter. There's the memo. The memo reads, as part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and video of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. The systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So the issue is, the videos they claim to have, they can't show because of the victims. And there are in the tens, over 10,000 videos? No third parties that could in any way have criminal charges laid against them. That, I believe, is what most people find hard to believe. Now, there is a bit of there are many misconceptions going around. One, that people think it's fake, and also that it claims Epstein and Maxwell did nothing wrong. It quite literally says in the second paragraph, it's pretty bad. But the idea that there's no client list is an absurdity. We are not claiming that Epstein created a client list. The argument, at least as far as I can tell, is there is a list of clients, meaning there are names of individuals who flew to his island and engaged in these things with him. Those names would be written down and called a list of clients. Now, here's what I want to do, because we could certainly read more, but they say that they have footage. They say the conclusion of that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from the common area of the special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As DOJ Inspector General explained in 2023, anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by the footage. The FBI's independent review of this footage confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in his cell at around 10:40 p.m. on August 9, 2019, until around 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers of the SHU. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing its contrast, balancing color, and improving its sharpness for greater clarity, viewability. The full, raw, and enhanced videos are available at the following link. I'm going to click that link, And okay, so here's the video. And as you can see, all right, I have no idea what these doors are. I have no idea what I'm looking at. But hey, other people noticed this very interesting little tidbit. Let's jump to 11:58:45. Take a look at the bottom left and the timestamp. In 10 seconds, what we're going to see is the footage will jump and skip over one whole minute. 3, 2, 1, not even 1. Jeez. So then you can see it changes, and now it's jumped forward, the frame has changed, and there is a minute of footage missing. If we jump forward, hey, look at that. Hey, did the garbage can just move? Oh, that's right. Here comes some guy. Some guy actually, how did that move? Did he move it?
It's clearly not as unedited as they would.
It's not only is it actually edited, but it shows a guy walking in one of the rooms. I don't know what that room is. So what is the purpose of this video? Honestly. And there we go. Hey, look, here's somebody entering the tier. Okay, but he leaves. Where does that door go? Is that door leaving? So here's a video of a guy walking in.
Throwing stuff into what I imagine is I'm guessing
hallway.
Totally is. Maybe it's a cell.
I don't think you walk into and out of cells like that. But here he is. He's entered. Where's he going? Okay, so here's a guy who just entered the tier or the room or whatever that was. And then I think if we jump back a little bit, actually, isn't there somewhere just past? Here you go. Here's a guy going in. So let me just say, they're not claiming Epstein did nothing wrong. They actually say that he did, but they're claiming he had no clients, no evidence of third-party wrongdoing, and everyone's basically saying, yo, that's ridiculous, highly unlikely, and the video footage they put out makes no sense. It's edited. There's people coming and going. I don't understand what they were trying to claim. There's another video, file 2, which I guess shows the same thing. Does this also have a minute missing from it? Because there's 2 files.
None of the
it does. It's the same thing.
Released.
Yo, check it out.
None of it does anything to satisfy people that are curious about what had happened, regardless of what your opinion is, whether you think that Epstein killed himself or he was murdered or whatever. The information that's been released does nothing but muddy the waters more and make people doubt the reliability of an organization that already has serious problems with credibility. So I feel like this was pointless and all it did was make things worse.
Also, how many movies have we seen where you've got 60 seconds of camera blackout to get in and get out?
Yeah, right? Yeah,
right?
Am I the only one?
It's the whole plot of Gone in 60 seconds.
It's literally an eternity.
I'm kidding. I don't know what the plot
at least in movies, you know?
Yeah, they'll say like you have 1 minute and then like 12 minutes later in the movie.
60 seconds starts now.
And it takes 10 seconds for them to do whatever they have to do.
And we see 2 people, one coming and one going. So I got to say, this is weird. The memo is not signed by anybody. So here's the memo. Again, it's at justice.gov. It is on their website. No one signed this. No one put their name on it. Who wrote this? Why is it on their website? This is very, very weird. I'm trying to come up with predictions and probabilities in my mind of what the play was here. First is Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence.
Yep.
Perhaps the DOJ was just like, how do we make people drop this without actually exposing powerful billionaires and princes and kings and politicians? Let's just claim it never happened. Here's my favorite thing about this. Remember phase 1 of the Epstein release?
Yeah.
Phase 2. Apparently is there's nothing. Thank you and have a nice day.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, like the first thing was like everybody got egg on their face. And now they're like the phase 2. They're just like, we're going to take some more eggs and just smash them in our faces.
Here you go. This is from justice.gov as well. Attorney General Pamela Bondi releases first phase of declassified Epstein files. The first phase of declassified files, there's no second phase. Why did they call it that? Why didn't they call it the only phase?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
So anyway, here's the point. Nobody signed this memo. So Hanlon's razor, they're just like, we don't know how to get past this story. So let's just claim it never happened. And we won't really release it. We'll give it to the press, put it on the website, and then no one will say anything about it. I mean, that seems to be the highest probability. But that being said, the end result, if I were to assume that the people at the DOJ were smart, at least smart enough, if they can think beyond the first order, then they'd probably say, hey, what happens after we do that?
Yeah.
To which the response is, well, if you put out video footage that's missing a minute, showing two people coming, one person coming and one person going, no one signs the document, you will make the conspiracy substantially crazier. Because now people are wondering, what the heck was the point of this?
All this does is just give me more questions that I want answered, honestly.
It feels like there was a, like there was a fight behind the scenes, having nobody owning it, nobody signing it, nobody's holding a press conference about it. That means there was like some kind of, they couldn't come to an agreement. They just had to get past it.
It's a hot potato. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to hold it.
Right.
But wait, there's more. First, let me highlight this. Bondi says Epstein client list sitting on my desk right now and is reviewing JFK and MLK files. Okay. So we have this. Fox News's, Peter Doocy asked about this, and Carolyn Levitt clarified she didn't mean the client list. She meant all of the documents. And okay, I'm going to give him that one. Basically, she was asked on Fox News about the client list, and she goes, it's all on my desk. It's sitting on my desk right now. So the media reported that what did she say? It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. So she was saying it in reference to the client list. But the argument now is, no, I meant all of the Epstein stuff. Okay, fine. Check this out. ABC News published this on July 1st. Mystery surrounds the Jeffrey Epstein files after Bondi claims tens of thousands of videos. They go to mention the comments made to reporters at the White House days after a similar remark to a stranger with a hidden camera raised the stakes for President Trump. Yet weeks after Bondi's remarks, it remains unclear what she was referring to. The AP spoke with people involved as lawyers or law enforcement officials examined the cases. And a socialite, Ghislaine Maxwell, who said they hadn't seen or didn't know of a trove of recordings like what Bondi described. Indictments and detention memos do not reference instances of videos of Epstein with children and blah, blah, blah. Why did ABC and the Associated Press run a story outside of the news cycle with no predicate incident? Let me clarify this. Sometimes opinion websites looking for content and bored will pick up a social or cultural issue and then run it even if it's old. It is uncharacteristic of ABC News and the AP to do this, as they are not supposed to be, especially the AP opinion websites. So why did the AP decide abruptly to just write a story claiming, that's strange, Pamela Bondi is wrong, there are no videos or any evidence, 1 week before this strange unnamed memo and weird video get dropped? I call this a fluffer story. I view it largely as, having worked in newsrooms, it's primer for a future event. It makes no sense. Look, man, tell me they'll call me crazy. They have to. But I've been in editorial meetings for numerous companies, various media outlets, as friends and as employees. And the meetings always start with, what's the story? What's going on? It does not start with, hey, is there anything that we can write about that's not in the news cycle where we'll have unnamed anonymous sources make claims about a political issue that we can't back up? So why did ABC write this 1 week ago?
No, I mean, look, none of this makes any sense to me.
Yep.
Not at all.
So then my next thought is, okay, well, if the DOJ is smart, is this the desired outcome? Did they want people like me and others to be saying this? One of the conspiracies is that they brought all of these conservative influencers to the White House, gave them all these binders that they all held up and smiled. They were brought outside in front of the press, and now they're all being discredited, saying, you latched onto this narrative, you were wrong, it was a lie. To be fair, at the same time, I don't really believe that, by the way, but Cash and Dan are being largely discredited as well as Pam Bondi. So I have no idea what this is or what's really going on. I think the best estimate is, I think Cernovich was saying this. What do you think they were doing the past several years? The reason there's no evidence is not that Pam and Cash and Dan are covering it up. It's that the Democrats covered it up a long time ago.
I mean,
There's no evidence left for them to get to.
Exactly.
So they just bided their time.
I have no idea.
I mean, there's the the popular narratives, which are, Trump is from the Democrats at least, Trump is implicated. So Donald Trump said to Cash and to Dan Bongino and AG Bondi to make it go away. It won't come out because Donald Trump is in there. There's the idea that it was all the information was actually scrubbed a long time ago. Because this is, what he died in. He died in what, 22? Was it? I think something like that. 21
or 22.
Yeah, something like that. And the previous administration got rid of all of the information. But neither of those are particularly satisfying, and I don't know that there's any evidence to validate either of those stories. There's circumstantial evidence, but there's nothing solid. So, I mean, I have no idea.
Would it have even been in the previous administration's best interest to scrub that evidence? Wouldn't?
Well, the other conspiracy theory is that in 2020, there was a plot to steal the election from Trump because they wanted to go in and clean all this up. I don't know that we can just talk about the 2020 election and say there's a lot of weird things about it now. Cash has released information that there was a Chinese plot to produce fake mail-in ballots. We don't know where that's going. The DOJ at the time covered that up, saying that, I should cover it up. They refused to investigate the lead. So there are questions about what really happened in terms of foreign influence. Maybe we'll never know. Certainly some people think weird and crazy things. I think ballot harvesting and changing the rules through judges and governors was how it was largely pulled off. But the argument would be that Democrats got in by any means necessary, even if it was going to be Joe Biden, because they wanted to go into the DOJ and go in the FBI offices and get rid of any incriminating evidence.
Yeah, but there's an awful lot of reasons why the Democrats want to win that election. Other than,
of course,
covering your tracks is covering up your tracks is just fine, but
opening the borders for 4 years and flooding in 10 million people,
reconstructing America, reconstructing the world. I mean, they've got a pretty big agenda. They think in their minds the reason they're covering up for themselves is because they're going to save the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's they really do.
In the way that the emperor was trying to save the galaxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have this before we wrap up that I want to highlight this tweet from Cernovich from 2019. Jeff Epstein's butler kept a detailed log of Epstein's crimes. Epstein's butler tried selling this information, which the FBI admitted was damning. Prosecutors gave Epstein a free pass, however, and indicted the butler for trying to sell the information. How about them apples? You know what, man? I'm starting to see a lot of people say things like, you know what? I don't care about the Epstein story. We lost. They destroyed the evidence a long time ago. Let's focus on Trump's agenda and what we can do. I half agree with that. Half. I understand. The reality is, powerful forces in government probably destroyed this evidence a long time ago. 2020. Mm-hmm. And we're chasing our tails and wasting time with that being reality. That being said, I think they're handling this miserably, and there is a way to deal with it if that is the case. And that is, from the get-go, they should have said, it is not so simple as to just release this. Sorry, we're still investigating. And look into anyone who may have destroyed evidence. Pam Bondi put out that letter saying the FBI was withholding evidence from her.
Yep.
They should have said, this is going deep and it's getting weird, and if we want to get these prosecutions, we need to investigate properly. But if that's not the case, then this whole thing just...
I mean, it stinks.
Poorly done.
It stinks, but, from the position of someone that's, watching from the sidelines, there's not a whole lot we can do except for just be like, shit, like, what the hell,
Which it's my understanding that that's what they've been doing this entire time anyway, since this administration started, was just kind of holding off, like, we don't have it yet, we're looking, we don't have it yet. Why now? Like, why all of a sudden, okay, you know what? We're just going to out this with what we've got, even if it
with
doesn't
no name on it,
really sell the marker, and no one's going to sign it.
Yeah.
Like,
it came from no one.
What does that do for you or anyone else, or the American people for that matter?
Possibly, in a few months, they'll try running the narrative that Epstein. Oh, the DOJ put out the thing saying that was all hubbub. What do you mean? Don't you remember that? And the videos, they proved
the video. Yeah.
And then we will be like, no, that's not correct. but the average person will only passively absorb the information and will go, didn't like Trump come out and say that he's committed suicide or something? You'll be like, no, I heard it was like Trump said it. Shrug.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's going to be a whole lot of like people just being like, palms up, this doesn't make any sense. Obviously, there are people that are really upset. There are people that are saying that this, they regret their vote, which I think is way overboard. I mean, just we're going to go on to stories about ICE raids and about the positives of immigration reform and stuff like that in a few minutes, and that alone, in my opinion, was reason enough to vote for Trump.
Let me ask you, Yoram. Here's what I think happened with the Epstein list. I think Epstein did this. I think Epstein was blackmailing powerful people. I think many of these people were probably princes, politicians, prime ministers. Prince Andrew, of course, was already implicated. He's apparently, that's it. That's the Epstein client list. 1, Prince Andrew. 2, nobody else. I think he did it. And I think the reason the U.S., even under Trump, will not release it is that there's going to be powerful CEOs. When they get outed, their companies will start collapsing. The stock value will drop. There's going to be alliances and foreign leaders, and it's going to cause political tumult in a bunch of different countries. I think that the U.S. government, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino Cash, they get in there, they see the evidence, and they went, how many companies will this destroy? And they're like, a couple dozen. When the CEOs are outed as being on this island with this guy, their stock is going to cut in half. What about foreign world leaders? There's a lot of them too. It could dissolve, it could destroy international trade lines and throw the world into chaos. We're talking about the world's most powerful elites. And so then the powers that be within the government, even the ones we like, are going, we have no choice but to just shut this down. Do you see that as making sense? Or am I crazy to think that's the greater probability of what happened?
No, I think it makes some sense. I think, look, there's a lot of people. I personally, there's plenty of people who are on that island. They're dirtbags. I would love to see, the Clintons or Ehud Barak. I mean, there's plenty of people. No, seriously, just I would love to see them get in trouble.
So was Barak on the island?
I think he was on the island. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
The Israeli press is always running like pictures of him like visiting Epstein in Manhattan. I don't actually know if he was on.
Trump flew on the plane. Elon said Trump was on the list.
Yeah.
Now the list is getting covered up.
Yeah. Look, if you're Donald Trump right now, okay. I mean, I think the argument you're making it makes some sense, but it also makes sense to look at it from a different direction. Trump he has this taste for pictures. With him getting photographed with a whole lot of little girls, women like around him. He likes to be a protector. He says, "I'm going to protect women whether they want it or not." He thinks it's important as a man, as president, as the leader of the world. He thinks it's important for him to be like moving towards peace, moving towards justice. And I can easily see, in addition to like the economic mess you're talking about, if it's not possible to get indictments, if it's not possible to have a serious debate about all these different kinds of world figures without bringing in, who knows, hundreds of then underage girls, you can just, I don't know, you can see him saying, this is all dirt. It's going to consume the next 2 years. Yeah. There's no way to get to the end of it, and my agenda's gone. Like he's old enough. He remembers the way that Ollie North, and the Iran-Contra affair, right? Two years of Reagan's presidency down the drain, and you never got to the bottom of it. And he could just be thinking, well, what do I get out of this? What does America get out of this?
Let me ask all you guys. If you were given evidence of Epstein's client list and it included business magnates, world leaders, and they said, you make the choice to publish this, but it will sever alliances with the United States. It will potentially spark civil unrest in numerous countries. It will destroy several Fortune 500 companies, potentially sending the U.S. market into a crisis or depression. Would you do it? Would you release all of the information to the world?
I mean, there's no question that you have a moral obligation to, but we're talking about balancing the scales here in a situation where the scales are seemingly unbalanceable. You know, like, do you take the moral high ground and say we need to release this because the public has a right to it, or do you allow everything to be
Maintain the
destroyed?
stability.
How do you make that call?
I'm of two minds, right? First of all, there is a human cost in that kind of course of action, right? If it destroys global markets, if it causes a bunch of chaos, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to lose their lives. There's a lot of people that'll die. There is a direct correlation between the GDP of a country and how many people die per year. That is undeniable. Now, that alone would make some people say, no, it's not worth it. Just because of the lives it saved. Now, there's already the people that were trafficked, their lives are already ruined, destroyed. And if you out the people that have done the destroying, and this is a hypothetical, of course, but if you out the people that have done the destroying and it does more damage, then it's not worth it because you have a net loss of life and it only makes things worse. That being said, there's also the possibility that kind of shock to the system could allow for restructuring of significant problems that we have in the U.S. and globally. So I don't know what I would do personally, and I'm glad that I don't have to make that call. But the people that are like, oh, I'm Rorschach from The Watchmen, and I would say just let it out. Like, there's a human cost.
I'd do it.
Well, I mean, there you go.
I'd release it.
That actually is a very good comparison, in my opinion, because
That's it.
that is it's a Rorschach situation. Totally, I completely agree.
Okay, so just so you've got somebody, I wouldn't.
You would.
No, look. I think we sent Trump in there. He's surrounded by good guys. People, you know, when Kash Patel was when he was appointed, there was weeks where everybody was trying to cover up things. They were just tearing their hair out. Kash Patel can't go in there. It's just the end of the world. So we sent him in. We sent Bongino in. These are people who, look, I know people are cynical about this, but this is representative government. You and I can't go in to the archives at the FBI. We don't have any way of doing that. We send people who we trust. We're not going to get better people than this. We sent the best people. Yeah. I mean, this is a government that wants to clean up, to drain the swamp. We'll never get a better government than this. If these people go in and they say, look, this is what we've got. Look,
I think it's an addiction and it's a moral sickness. And, you know, there are similarities. For those who are not familiar with the Watchmen comic, basically what happens is the villain stages a global catastrophe to force the Russians and the U.S. to align themselves, ending the Cold War. Rorschach, one of the quote-unquote heroes, more of an anti-hero, says, no, the world must be told the truth. And Dr. Manhattan says, you will cause nuclear annihilation if you tell them the truth. And he goes, never compromise. So Dr. Manhattan, superhero, blows him up, kills him. Yeah. My view is, what kind of world will come tomorrow if elite billionaire pedophiles get away with what they've done? We know they got away with what they've done. You're not preserving anything but a moldy piece of cake. You can say the American experiment resulted in this delicious, moist vanilla cake with cream cheese frosting and salted caramel swirls. And at this point, it is moldy and disgusting. And the argument is, but we still have cake. If there are elite, powerful individuals that have done what they've claimed to do, it sickens me to think they're sitting there with their feet up going, I am so important, I can do whatever I want without consequence. And the message that sends. Now, here's a reality about law. Let's say you're a small town business magnate. You live in an area of 2,000 to 3,000 people, and you own the local brake pad factory. You're the CEO, and you're caught, I don't know, with some ladies of the night. You don't go to jail. You don't get charged. Never happens. Because the cops will see you, and they'll go, oh, no. The mayor, their boss, will say, do you have any idea what will happen to this town if you arrest this man for the crimes he committed? It's a victimless crime. Just do nothing, okay? It was him and some lady. We know it's illegal. If you're in this small town and you get arrested and go to jail, and that puts the big factory at risk, jobs could be lost and the town could go under, so they protect you. This is true at all scales. The bigger you are, the more powerful you are, the more likely it is they will not charge you because of concerns of how it will disrupt everything else. So when you are the CEO of a big tech company, or you're a prince or a prime minister, their attitude is, it is better that we shut this thing down, tell them never again, and just walk away from it. And what that means is, tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, the narrative we have set, the world we have created is, you can be the most evil of evil men, and you'll get away with it because you're powerful. That means if you want to be evil, make sure you do evil in scale with how much power you've attained. I reject that. I know I can recognize it's easy to say.
This is like raging against the human condition, though, because there's always been people in, high levels of power, high levels of authority that essentially can get away from, that are above the law. I mean, when you're dealing with royalty, currently there's royalty.
Andrew.
Yeah. But I mean, the United States and the idea that everybody is subject to the law is novel in human history. And it has always been where people that are wealthy, people that are in positions of power have the ability to escape the repercussions of the laws that they break. So so the idea that this will solve anything, that in the future this wouldn't happen again, I don't think that's the case.
No, I think there's definitely a hierarchy there too, because you see this with sports figures and things like that, and actors and stuff like that, where it's almost like it seems like it's a win for them to be like, oh yeah, this guy totally DUI last night, and was caught with 3 prostitutes and a pound of cocaine in his trunk. That's a win for them, because while he may be a multimillionaire, he's not in that higher bracket of people that it's going to change anything. It almost seems like it's worth it for them to out something like that, because it shows, hey, we're still doing our job even though these guys are rich.
Yep. Yep.
Look, it makes me sick just like it makes you sick. Like, every normal person is going to be sickened by the thing you're describing. I just think that if you are Donald Trump, he's got his eyes laser focused first before anything else. The border, the immigration situation. Second, reshoring factories, the economy. That's the reason that he's hanging out in the Middle East with all of these, sheiks. He doesn't like this. He's doing it because he wants to bring those trillions to the United States because he thinks he's going to save it, and he just doesn't want to get derailed. That's a legit.
But I'm not asking about what Trump is or is not doing. We don't exactly know what evidence he has or doesn't have, and I understand the argument that Trump is focused on his agenda, but I suppose the implication with your argument is that you are saying you believe Trump knows these pedos, knows who they are, and won't arrest them.
Tim, someone in the chat mentioned Blackstone's formulation, the idea that it's better that 10 guilty people go free than one innocent person suffer. How do you square that with the idea of outing these people? Because these people, they go free for breaking the law, and it saves lives.
The formulation was never let evil men do things so that random other people are safe from life.
Blackstone's
formulation is talking about the government exercising its authority over individuals to cause them suffering. If the truth causes you suffering, that is reality. If you were born in South Sudan, your GDP is $400, and that's not my fault.
No, it's not your fault.
So if there are elite, powerful pedos that are running big companies and exposing the evil causes downstream bad things to happen, that is not me exercising authority to destroy your life. That is just you are in the stream of evil.
Well, I mean, that's. I don't know that they're in the stream of evil. The people that you're punishing, while they deserve it. Right?
That's not Blackstone's formulation. Just
what? No, but I'm just using I'm not saying it's the exact same thing. But what I'm saying is,
I don't care then.
Well, okay, that's a perfectly legitimate point to make.
The idea that I'm going to be like, listen, I can't arrest this murderer because he has 3 small children. Think about the suffering they'll have by not having a dad. Nah, he goes to jail. This idea that we have with the immigration thing. Oh, you can't deport these people. They have children who are born in America. They committed a crime. This is the penalty. We're giving them a ride back to their home country, and if their kids want to go with them, they can. But think about the suffering the kids will endure back home in Honduras. That is not my fault. That is not me exercising authority to punish them. Yeah. Blackstone's formulation is, if the government is choosing to incarcerate you and deprive you of your rights with the potentiality that you are an innocent person, that is what it seeks to avoid.
You're completely right. What if he can't? What if the reality is that they cannot make any of these cases? They know who they might go after. They can't make any of these cases without bringing, all these women who were children at the time. Without years of this, there's no way to put these people away. It's not that nobody cares. It's just that they look at the trajectory. What are we going to have to do in order to get there? It's not just publishing a list.
Of course.
It's like, what do we have to do to get there? And they say, we can't. This can't be what we spend the next 2 years on.
Indeed. When the Snowden files got released to, was it Laura Poitras, Glenn Greenwald, a few others, they trickled it out. And I think they did it for personal gain. I think they thought we can sit on this trove of documents, slowly releasing things over time, and we will have content for years. Got big investors, started a company. I, along with everyone else, said, just dump all of it.
Yeah.
Just release it. Now, I don't completely agree with Snowden's releasing of the documents as well, because he was a leaker, not a whistleblower. There's a big difference. In his leaking, we gained information about illicit government programs. Whistleblowing is, here's a specific program that is illegal. That being said, once the information was out, I said, just release it. Like, just do it. Like, the idea that you're going to sit and wait for it, I would say probably 80 or 90% of all that information was just forgotten about. People moved on. They didn't go through it. You could have decentralized the release. You could have, or even at the very least, find a happy medium, split up amongst different people. I think the challenge there ultimately, though, was redactions. So it is what it is. In this regard, I am sick and tired of this. But won't anyone think of the evil? But won't anyone think of the evil people? They're sitting there saying, we must live in a world. Like, let me put it this way. Perhaps the reaction to all of this is China wins. We destabilize ourselves by releasing this information of the Americans that were under blackmail. Then this causes market problems that China doesn't face. And Trump saying, there's no way I'm going to let America suffer because these sickos. That I understand. But I think ultimately the question is, what nation do you build? I don't know that I would have, let's just call it whatever you want, the strength of moral character to protect a bunch of powerful globalist, elitist pedophiles for the sake of the vision of your nation. I'd just be like, those people, we got to do it. They got to go to jail. They got to get locked up. They got to get arrested. And it's not a question of creating a plan to arrest them. It's saying, here you go, everybody. Take a look. Figure it out. But that being said, let's jump to the next story. Ladies and gentlemen, major raids taking place in Los Angeles. Iconic city is grinding to a halt as ICE raids send its many migrant workers into hiding. So we've got these videos that are popping up. Take a look at this with Mayor Karen Bass.
Who did you speak with? Mayor Bass, who did you speak with on the phone just now? Who did you speak with on the phone? Wow.
I am going to say.
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and we're departing.
Okay. All right. Mayor Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Oh my
Any
God.
comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak with?
Just wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
They will be leaving.
I am so happy, so happy to see all of this. There was a viral tweet, several in fact, over the weekend. Traffic on the 4th of July in LA, none. All the highways were green. People were shocked. There's videos of construction workers, full teams, running full speed out of construction sites. And they tell me I should care, and I don't know why. They're not going to convince me to care. This is massive. It's what the American people voted for. Trump's now got more funding for this. I think ICE is now one of the biggest law enforcement operations departments in the country. And we are seeing real tangible effects in Los Angeles as these criminal aliens are fleeing and many of them self-deporting.
Yeah, the downstream effects of Trump's policies regarding the border and regarding ICE and stuff like that, they're starting to manifest. And I think that the positives that people haven't thought of are going to really shock them. You know, the amount, like just the idea that traffic is, you know, in LA, I mean, I don't know how many people.
Well, we don't need the EVs anymore.
We don't need electric vehicles?
We don't need self-driving autonomous electric vehicles because traffic has alleviated itself.
Well, I mean, fair enough, but I still like my Tesla.
No, you're allowed to have one. I'm just saying the idea that all of this traffic is causing a big problem, so we need to get rid of cars. Not anymore.
Not only that, but like the, you know, visits to the emergency room. If you've got people that are here illegally, they're not going to a primary care to see a specialist when they have something wrong. They're going to go to the emergency room and they're going to be like, "Hey, I've got this problem." Makes the wait time significantly
They're not
longer.
lining up outside the welfare offices or the food pantries or
Yep.
anything like that because they're just not here.
Yeah, the services that the American people depend on are going to see significant, lightening of the load.
We were just in Chicago, and when we landed, Brandon was like, "We better get to the hotel right away, otherwise traffic's going to get real bad." And then we drove on the highway, and it was straight shot.
I also didn't know that they had postponed all of the festivities until the day after the 4th. Because everything that I thought we were going to see traffic for that day, we didn't until the following day. But
Speaking of immigration, Chicago doesn't do fireworks anymore. That blew my mind. The Chicago fire.
Why is that?
Well, the arguments I hear is, but Navy Pier does fireworks. It's a private thing. Navy Pier has generic Wednesday, Saturday fireworks. Chicago, as a city, used to do a 4th of July ceremony. We'd all go down to the lake. Everybody would line up and they'd watch. Now it's non-descriptive holiday period. And Navy Pier has fireworks, but they always have fireworks, so it's not a special moment.
Because they don't want to celebrate America.
Well, these are
I
fired
think
out
it's-
over the lake, too. So
Right.
I wonder if it's a kind of a jurisdictional thing as well, where they're allowed to shoot them over the lake. But we used to have them along the Chicago River right
yeah.
there in the city, and we did not see that.
Well, we used to celebrate this country. When I visited home, it's not all immigration, but the baseball fields at my local park are overgrown with weeds. They put up 2 big soccer goals just in the middle of the baseball fields, and it looks, to be honest, within the past couple years, the baseball fields being overgrown are a product of people not having kids and not bringing their kids out to play baseball. When I was a kid, every weekend there were 4 baseball fields and they were full. Actually, I think there's 6.
Kelly Park. I used to play
Full.
Little League there when I was a kid.
Nobody's there anymore. Nobody's there. And so it's not just immigration, but immigration is a component of and a symptom of. The reason why Democrats argue they need to bring in all these immigrants is because there's no workers and there's no young people. But that's also contributing to a decline in American cultural traditions and norms, as well as people not having kids and bringing them out. So it's compounding.
Yeah, it's 2 things.
Right.
The rule of law, which you were talking about before. If you want to see the Trump administration puts its foot down and says there is going to be law in this country, their number one, their showcase, we're going to reimpose law, is on immigration. And it's the other thing. The second thing is what you're saying is, how are you going to return love of the country? How are you going to return that it's permissible to love this country, to join your fortune to it, and to say this is something great and important? If you don't reassert there is such a thing as an American, there's such a thing as an American border, there's such a thing as American territory, and there's an American inheritance. If you don't reassert that, then you're not going to have anything.
Well, love is earned, not bought, in my opinion, unless obviously you subscribe to OnlyFans. But
quote unquote love.
yeah,
we drove around our old neighborhood, and it's crazy to see very few people walking around. The park was largely empty, and it was the 4th. It's the 4th of July, and it was just mostly empty. And we had talked about this before. People are just staying inside. They're not going out. It's crazy to think, but the internet really has caused a lot of these problems. But it's a combination of the internet creating a digital social faux interaction online where you don't need to go outside anymore, and people didn't have kids. So there's no kids to play Little League anymore, even if you wanted to. And then nobody goes outside. It used to be back in the day, I'd be sitting at home as a little kid, and I'd be like, I want to be doing something. Where are my friends? I'd have to go outside, go find them.
Right.
Call my friend's house. They're not here. I think they're at the park. Okay, let's go try and find them. Riding around trying to find people. Now it's you sit in the house, you sit online, you swipe on TikTok.
yep.
Actually,
we used to run into
YouTube
each other
Shorts.
in the street, and it would just be like, "Oh, hey,
And then we hang
what's
out.
up?" And then we hang out for the rest of the day. And we do things like that.
Like I'd be skating on the street, and then Brandon would be skating, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, there you are. Let's go skate somewhere else." And then now we're in a group.
And we pick up a couple more people on the way. Now we've got a full team, and we're out, and we're doing things all night.
You'd think with the internet, you'd be able to just connect instantly, and everybody would be together. It's not. It's the opposite.
Well, I'm curious to see if this is the same thing in other cities too, because I know as far as crime goes in Chicago, that's gone way up, obviously since pandemic. And And it seems to me, I mean, obviously there was that River North shooting that happened, 4 people and, a couple dozen injured just days before the 4th. It makes me wonder if that does play a factor in some of this as well, because how could it not? I know that I haven't wanted to go downtown in years, just short from moving out of there entirely. Just because things were so bad downtown that there was absolutely no point. You can't enjoy yourself down there without having to have your head on a swivel.
Here's a cultural degradation. The old temple downtown is a casino now. Talk about a complete inversion. But I'm curious, just with all of this stuff going on, your thoughts as it pertains to nationalism and how we reverse this trend. How do we restore that spirit? I think Trump's doing. I think that's what he wants to do.
Oh, you can see it for sure. Just take a look, just as an kind of like an iconic moment. Trump and Melania on the balcony with the B-2s flying over. Okay, people obviously have all sorts of mixed feelings about the B-2s and foreign policy, but just focus for a second on the way he sees it, thinking about what does this do for America? This is the greatest technology in the world, he says. And he stands there saluting through the entire Star-Spangled Banner, and then these incredible, these machines that they're just like magic. They're like science fiction. This flying wing thing that can fly to the other side of the world and do pinpoint bomb. He's standing there saluting. He's not saluting the bombers, obviously. He's saluting America, and he really believes in that. And he's trying to inspire that in people.
I think Trump sees largely what I'm discussing, what many people have seen. When you go back to your hometown and see the baseball fields overgrown with weeds, and you say, why was there no steward of this, of what we had, of what we did? Every day we came together. I mean, it's wild to remember when I was a kid to see they played baseball, Little League, next to each other in the fields, and the balls would cross over. It was like, that's how much
games would overlap. Absolutely.
It's crazy. Now nothing but overgrown weeds. I think Trump sees that more so than just this one field. He sees the whole country and says, why aren't we celebrating the 4th of July? Why are they tearing down statues of George Washington? What is happening?
Not just the decline of America, but the decline of Americanism.
And so It's interesting when you look at Los Angeles, you look at these scenes. I mean, there's really a fight here between the will of the Trump administration to kind of reconquer these cities and make them part of America again, and a kind of resistance that doesn't want that America, doesn't want to see it come back.
Indeed. And I think when we're looking at the statements of people like Zoran Mamdani and these Democrats and people like Karen Bass, there's going to come a point, and I think that point is largely now, where people start to recognize there is America, this country, the United States of America, we call it America, and then there is this invasive ideological force with a large component being non-citizens. And of course, the non-citizens want what is not theirs. There is, as you mentioned, the American inheritance that our ancestors, be it the children of slaves, Native Americans, the colonists who have been here, and legal immigrants as well, who have said, please tell me by the rules by which I can be a part of your club. And we said, yes. And these people these leftists want to bring in those who would oppose and defy and destroy. And of course, when they say our democracy, when they say we are under attack, they are not referring to this country, its values, or its people. They're referring to themselves as an invasive, infecting force that wants to disrupt and dismantle. And now New York, our once great city, has a guy who says he's going to defy the law intentionally. Trump's threatening to arrest him for it. When you have a mayor, and it's not just Zoran Mamdani as a potential mayor, but Karen Bass and all these other mayors saying they will do everything in their power to prevent the federal government from enforcing the law in those places. And then some of these places, like in New York and California, say non-citizens should vote. They are telling you, we are not you. We are not your citizens. We have nothing but disdain for your country, and we will give ourselves the power to destroy you. Trump is saying no to that.
Yeah, and they're just look at the flags they fly. I mean,
foreign countries.
No, they'll fly Mexican flags, Palestinian flags, all sorts of flags, the social revolution flags. but they won't fly American flags.
Well, not to mention seeing Americans burning American flags recently in the news, which is also just ridiculous.
But these are the co-conspirators. These are the people who hate this country, and they want to see it burn, and they're happy living in the fringes in the dirt.
Okay, an important thing is this isn't just two sides, each one saying about the other, oh, you're terrible, which is pretty normal. I mean, it's normal for democracy that there's that kind of thing. Here, as soon as liberalism moves over into Marxism and the explicit goal is overthrowing, right? I mean, when he's talking, Mamdani is saying seize the means of production. He is explicitly talking about uproot the past, uproot the future. There's going to be a whole new world that I'm going to build. It's not the one that you had before.
Yep. Right. Let's jump to this story from the Post Millennial, my friends. I did a morning segment talking about an officer getting shot in an ICE facility, and I missed this story in the morning. Did y'all know that Texas Border Patrol were ambushed by a mass shooter? Suspect in Texas Border Patrol ambush shooting identified as Ryan Louis Mosqueda. They say Border Patrol agents were ambushed by an active shooter when they arrived at the Border Patrol Annex facility in McAllen, Texas on Monday morning. Law enforcement has said no federal officers were shot in the incident. However, one McAllen, Texas police officer was struck in an unstable condition. The gunman was shot and killed by officers on the scene and has been identified as Ryan Louis Mosqueda. According to Fox News' Bill Malugan, 3 federal and Texas law enforcement sources tell me an active shooter with a rifle and tactical gear ambushed Border Patrol agents as they arrived at a Border Patrol Annex facility in McAllen, Texas this morning. Local police and agents returned fire, killing him. I'm told this was a purposeful ambush and attack against federal agents, and a press conference is planned for later this morning. No federal agents were injured. Now, you know what's really challenging? When I started, the reason why I did not know this was a different story. Let me show you this from the Post Millennial. Multiple suspects in custody after officers shot outside Texas ICE facility on July 4th. There were 2 stories in the news over the past few days. In, I believe it's Alvarado? Yes. Alvarado Police Department in Texas. They responded to a suspicious person. The man had a gun, shot a cop in the neck, who was airlifted to a hospital, treated, and discharged. I see that story where they say a cop got shot. I then see another story where they say a cop got shot, and I thought it was the same story. In fact, it was 2 different stories, one from the 4th on Friday and one from today, Monday. So when I was running my show, I thought this was the same story because, heaven help me, 2 cops getting shot in 3 days. 2 instances where armed extremist leftist anti-ICE people are shooting at federal law enforcement did not seem fathomable. But here we are right now. This morning. I know, Phil. It's funny.
Well, I was just Googling. I wanted to find out exactly who the guy went after, like which Border Patrol unit. Turns out he went after BORTAC, which is the Border Patrol Tactical Unit. They specialize in anti-terrorist and like hostage rescue stuff. It's literally like dude saying, I'm going to take on a whole SWAT unit myself. Grok just brought that up for me, so I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just thought it was funny.
It's just Democrats have been escalating calls for violence, and now over the weekend, armed leftists went to and presumably Alvarado to the police department. It just says in Texas, shot a cop in the neck, and in McAllen, a guy with a rifle ambushed federal law enforcement officers. When the Democrats keep claiming that ICE are Nazis, Gestapo, kidnapping children, which is a lie, this was the predictable outcome. We talked about this with Abrego Garcia when they kept saying a Maryland man was deported, when in fact he's an MS-13 gang member charged with smuggling humans and was deported to his home country. They lied and said it was a Maryland man, a construction worker. And then you end up with stupid people thinking, wow, Trump is rounding up Americans and putting them in camps. So what do? They do this.
I mean, there was a time where, you know, the idea of stochastic terrorism, you heard about the left talking about it all the time, that, you know, Donald Trump's rhetoric, his racist rhetoric was actually stochastic terrorism, et cetera, et cetera. You don't hear that very much from the left anymore considering all of the firebombing of Tesla dealerships, people shooting at Tesla dealerships, people attacking the Border Patrol, literally, taking rifles and trying to attack, because they're actually adding fuel to the fire. Like, people are already wigging out. And there was a story, I think Tim's going to talk about it a little bit later, but the people are actually saying Democrats need to stand up and actually Democrat representatives need to put themselves in harm's way, so that way they can protect.
The line was, they should do something that will get them shot.
Yeah.
That is a clear statement of, you should engage in violence that threatens the life or safety of law enforcement officers. That's the only reason they're going to shoot you.
Insane.
But
I'm pretty sure that we saw most of this. I don't know if you agree. I think we saw most of this in the summer of 2020. We had 6.
Nope.
We saw cops getting shot. There was a number of different incidents where cops were killed.
This is finish your point. I don't want to
look. You guys have got the tech. You can look it up. I'm pretty sure that what we're seeing is a moment where Trump was here before for whatever it was, 5 months between June and November in the year 2020. America had 100 cities burning, and Trump didn't do anything. Maybe he didn't feel like he had the power to, but I actually think that most of what was going on was people believed that the left would be blamed for it, like the Republicans. I mean, good Republicans too, not just bad Republicans. I think people were sitting and saying, let the left, let them do all the worst. People will they'll be defeated in the election, and it didn't happen.
Right.
And this is, for Trump, for his administration, for his whole worldview and the future of America. This is the moment of truth. He's revisiting this moment with the same violence and the same hatred. And the question now is can he stamp it out? Is he going to put his foot down enough to actually be able to stamp it out? If not,
so when I said no to your point, you asked, you said we've already seen this. Dozens of officers were shot in 2020. There was the story of the cop who was shot in the neck and paralyzed. There were, in St. Louis, 4 officers were shot on June 1st during the unrest. Multiple officers were shot. 2 officers shot in Buffalo. I remember that. Hundreds of officers were injured, more than 300 incidents. This is different.
And what about Texas? Wasn't there a sniper who killed cops in Texas?
Yes. I don't know if that was during George Floyd riots, though.
Okay.
Let's see. You're right. No, it was. It was San Antonio. That's when, he was, Indeed. The reason why I say this is different is that during riots, during chaos, I believe that is largely these people go out there to riot, and then if chaos happens, shootings happen. These 2 incidents are armed leftist groups or an individual intentionally going to a facility for the purpose to kill police. So the difference being, one, I would say the sniper downtown in Antonio does somewhat align with this. That was an intentional targeting of police. This is the targeting of federal law enforcement intentionally, ambush style. I do believe this is something we have not seen before. Obviously, there's overlap, and there'll be a debate about it.
I think on a larger degree. I know what you're citing too. We did see a couple of cases where it did look like officers were being intentionally targeted, because a few of my friends were officers, and I remember a time where I was checking on them regularly to make sure that they hadn't been targeted. But I think in this instance, the targeting is a little more widespread and is definitely being put out there like propaganda. And this is being done by people who do not believe there should be consequences for it. So, I mean, how do you oust something like this when these people believe that they are above the law and they are serving a higher purpose because they disagree with a political agenda?
I just think so. Let me try and clarify. During a riot, these people feel like they have cover to do these things. Yep. This is plain day people showing up and shooting cops and ICE agents. That's just crazy.
Well, I think you're certainly right that the left they're more desperate. I mean, in 2020, they felt like they had the wind in their sails. They felt like they were winning. They were on a roll. Here they're on the defensive. Now they've got a real organized administration, a real organized movement trying to put them down. They are more desperate, that's for sure.
It's hard to see this as anything else other than like a 7-year-old throwing a tantrum because he has to eat his Brussels sprouts, though. Like, and I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you can't be for this type of violence. You can't be for this. I mean, these are people that are also parents, you know, like these people are part of this country. They're not.
I think we're at war. It's just, what does war mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't mean a formal declaration. I don't mean, I think the ideological conflict clearly consists of two principal forces. They want control over the system. Donald Trump, there's a photo of a Democrat crying on the steps of the Capitol building after Trump got his big, beautiful bill signed. And the meme was, Democrats know it's over. Trump's going to start deporting all of these people. When they say our democracy, they literally view us as an enemy they seek to destroy who's winning. We don't view them the same way. Conservatives largely have not understood the threat posed by communists and socialists like Zoran Mamdani, who literally say they will stop the will of the American people from being enforced. I want to stress this again. Zoran has several quotes where he says he will protect people from deportation. He will stop ICE wherever he can. Trump said, then we'll have to arrest him. Understand what that means. The American people, through the system created by the founding fathers, voted for an administration, every branch of government, to enforce our immigration laws. Zoran Mamdani says he says the will of the American people be damned. We will oppose your laws, your government, and your law enforcement, and we will publicly declare it. They are hoping you let them do it. And you know what? If you have two countries, let's call it Fritton and Brant's, and one day, a bunch of French people, thousands, march across the border into Fritton and just start going in houses and setting up shop. And the government of Fritton says, we're not going to do anything about it. It's fine. You will not have a war. Your shops are being taken over. The language is changing. People start fighting and disagree with the religion of the people and the traditions of the people. You start getting, various clashes all over the place. And your crown, the crown of Fritton still says, we don't care. There's no war, right? But what happens if the French people are marching into Fritton and the king of Fritton says, no, you cannot come into our towns, take our homes, take our shops, and take our land, and resists? The French people fight, and now you have a war. The only reason, in my opinion, we are not in any kind of formal declaration of war is that conservatives largely don't want one and don't do anything about it. The left clearly does. When the right does not engage, the left is violent. When the right engages, the left escalates their violence. As you mentioned, they're desperate. The right does not do this. We saw one principal event with the Capitol riots that were bad. And even then, it was 1,000 people one time in a very bad riot. The left riots all the time, nonstop. And what happens if the police try and stop the riots? The left will riot more. If Donald Trump comes in and puts the boot down on these shooters, there will be more of them soon. Their intention is to destroy us. They have exemplified it with their actions. Trump is not doing anything other than winning an election, funding the law enforcement for the second biggest issue in the election, and carrying out the will of the American voter. All of that is what is supposed to happen in our system of governance. The left rioting, throwing bricks, burning things down, smashing buildings, throwing Molotovs at cops is violence and is a violation of our laws and our system that we voted for. The moment Trump starts fighting back with the Marines, what do we get? They go and they shoot at ICE officers and they shoot at 2 cops. So they've decided if you use the law, we will escalate against you. I think that it is very likely this will escalate. Trump probably is saying it's my last term and we're getting the job done. We're going to deport people and we're going to restore America. And the left is going to say that war it is.
I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before, but the idea that if there's going to be some kind of conflict in the U.S., I prefer that conservatives be in charge of the government and have the apparatus of the DOJ as opposed to the left. So
let's jump to the story from the Post-Millennial. Democrat lawmakers say their constituents want violence against Trump policies. The report they cite is from Axios. Democrat lawmakers have said their voters are really displeased with them over their failure to prevent Trump's and the Republicans from enacting their agenda. These voters are so mad, Democrat polls claim, that they could resort to violence. A report from Axios details the issue, saying they spoke to more than 24 House Democrats to gauge the temperature of the Democratic and leftist base. People apparently are mad, and so mad they could take action into their own hands, as we've already seen with these stories of an ambush on an ICE facility and 2 cops being shot. Quote, "What I have seen is a demand that we get ourselves arrested intentionally or allow ourselves to be victims of violence. And a lot of times that's coming from economically very secure white people. In Portland, Oregon, violent Antifa militants have been doing just that by blockading an ICE facility there. LA has seen riots as well as protests have erupted in New York, D.C., and elsewhere. On the same day that Axios released their story, Border Patrol was ambushed in Texas outside an immigration facility. We've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something no matter what we say. They want more," Brad Schneider said. Other lawmakers did not give their names when they expressed their constituents' concerns. Another told Axios, "I actually said in the meeting, when they light a fire, my thought is to grab an extinguisher. Going on to say that someone at the table said, 'Have you tried gasoline?'" Our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. An anonymous lawmaker told Axios that there needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public. Still, another said that their constituents were done with civility because it isn't working. Another Democrat said, "People online have sent me crazy-ish, told me to storm the White House and stuff like that." The Democrat told Axios, "There's always people on the internet saying crazy stuff." In the Axios report, they say, quote, "Some of them have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot when visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies," a third House Democrat told Axios. The left wants violence. They
So
want
bad that
blood
they're
and they
willing
want
to
war.
sacrifice themselves, apparently.
No,
No.
Other
people.
My gut instinct is it's liberal white women, because this is the MO that you see on the TikTok videos that they make. They're constantly saying, someone should go do this, and alluding to someone should go and commit violent acts against the president. You see those kind of posts on TikTok all the time. They make their rounds on X when they, from libs of TikTok or whatever. Consistently wealthy liberal awfuls are telling people that you should go do something. But of course,
here's the problem. You can't criminally charge them. They would never get convicted. So we had this debate with a libertarian fella. Democrats arrested Trump's lawyers, charging his lawyers with RICO because they offered him legal advice. Constitutionally protected. They raided his home. They gave him 34 fake felonies. What do? For one, you can't go to the prosecutors. They got prosecutorial immunity. You can try and arrest some of these politicians and some of these individual actors in New York, but if you are operating out of the Southern District of New York, all of the jury pool is going to be liberal, and they're going to say, "Good, we want more." So how do you stop it?
I mean, I don't have a solution. I don't know that if I knew, I would definitely be trying to stop it. But I mean, this leads to the whole where's the off ramp conversation that we have. What is the how do we de-escalate this kind of violent rhetoric when there are so many people out there that truly seem to believe that, like, sending illegal immigrants back to their countries of origin is somehow fascism? The most mundane state policies, like you can't just come here and take advantage of our generous social security system, and that just upholding the law is considered fascism. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's not like it's the first time we've actually deported people in any administration either. I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, just not en masse like this. So it's like,
well, it's never targeted direct communities this way before. They say Obama was the deporter in chief, but it was largely people crossing the border. Trump is actually going into LA and saying these people are gone. We're sending them home, and people are fleeing and going into hiding.
Let me add to your question, the issue of the time frame. 16 months from now, there's midterm elections. And Trump administration is extremely aware that the way this is going to end, the way this round is going to end is if they can stay in control, if they can be putting it down without looking like they're overreacting, without giving the impression of, oh, okay, look here, the Trump administration, they're the Nazis. This is difficult to do. It's a fine line. They have to be able to put this down with enough force and still look like they're in control, like they're generous, like they love all Americans. It's incredibly difficult to do, but that's the job. And without that, they will lose that. They will lose that election. They'll lose the Congress.
And honestly, I don't think there is a way to de-escalate this. I think this is going to turn into one of those situations where violence can only be met with violence, and that's what we've been seeing with these attacks on these police. That's these guys are ending up shot dead or, critical condition.
The ideology of the left is extreme. They have been flooding the country with illegal immigrants against the will of the American voter, telling you to be okay with it. Trump responds with, let's enforce the law. They respond with, we'll kill you. And they're shooting at cops now. And they're rioting and firebombing. If Trump responds with, then you go to jail too, they will respond with an escalation of violence. I don't think people understand. When you see the far left rioting, they are showing you they are more willing than you to use violence. And it's really that simple. Whatever the escalation is, Democrats are two degrees above Republicans, or liberals 2 degrees above conservatives, or the left and the right. The right doesn't protest. They don't march in the streets. They barely go out. The left protests something every single day. If the right is not willing to even go outside for an issue, what do you think they're willing to fight for? The left is fighting for the stupidest things in the world. They'll fight anything for any reason. So when the escalation happens, these people are going to go nuts, and they're going to take it to straight up conflict.
You don't think that this is organized? That it's organized, funded, that there's probably foreign governments involved?
I would say yes, but it's cell-based. It's not. The left is not part of this big umbrella that controls them on puppet strings. There's individual disparate groups of leftist ideology that have various forms of funding. And I would call it more of a complex standalone complex. A complex standalone complex, meaning a standalone complex is a reference to when individuals act in such a way that it appears as a coordinated effort. A complex standalone complex would be you have cells of standalone action against cells of standalone action. So what I mean by this is Antifa has various chapters. The people there only know a few of each other. There will be like 4 or 5 direct action organizers. They'll have a meeting and 15, 20 people they don't know show up for their event. And they talk about what they want to do. So it's not that they have an organization of 30 people. It's that 4 or 5 people will put on an event and a bunch of people show up. Then those groups will say, put out the word, we will be in San Bernardino. Other local Antifa groups do the same thing, and you get one big mass in one area from a bunch of different organizations.
Yeah, so
it's not one funding operation.
Yeah, I don't expect the right to be able to imitate anything like that.
They don't want to.
They don't. The right doesn't have that kind of an ideology. I mean, the purpose of this is revolutionary activity. It's by the book. The purpose is to overthrow the American government.
Yep.
And the response is it's a little bit hard for me to see why the right rioting in the streets is going to be helpful. The real question, I think, is whether the American people have become so squeamish and so liberal that they're going to defeat the Republicans at the polls if they use overwhelming force in order to uproot these cells. It's not easy to do, but it's not impossible to do.
I wonder, based on all the events now, that if the Democrats were to reclaim Congress in 26, which some predict, and then in 2028, however they do, they win the presidency, I don't think the right would engage in the same degree of violent resistance as the left would against Trump. And thus you'd end up with probably some kind of tyrannical, system. American citizens will get walked all over, taxed to oblivion, cities will be destroyed, anarcho-tyranny. Whereas when the Republicans win, Trump just literally enforces codified law. And they go nuts and start shooting and resisting. If Trump doesn't uphold the law, I think If Trump loses this battle, the right will just let the left do it. Like, this is how the right fights back. They say, well, I'll vote. And then they go and vote. And if they don't win, they go, gosh darn it. The left goes and firebombs buildings, even the White House grounds and churches.
Yeah.
So if Trump keeps pushing and then J.D. Vance wins, I think escalation is predictable. But let's do this. We have this story from UC Santa Barbara, The Current. Could America break apart? UCSB expert explores the possibility. Political economist Benjamin Cohen considers the forces driving nations, including the U.S., towards fragmentation, to which he argues, in 10 years, California will formally declare its independence as a sovereign nation. President Vance threatens military takeover of the state, deploys National Guard backed by red states, triggering secessionist movement and a civil war. And he says it's a hypothetical, but he says the likelihood of a civil war in this country is substantially greater than zero. He's just one guy, right? Well, here's this. From Notice. Trump fired them. Now they're plotting to stop him. Former USAID and State Department officials worried about the future of democracy in America say they're actively organizing to resist Trump inside and outside of government. We are looking at two factions fighting for control of one government. Historically, we call that a civil war. But I suppose the fighting needs to be kinetic for it to be considered a civil war, despite the fact we have all of the political elements of that battle. You've got predictions across the board far and wide of a pending second civil war. It's been happening for 8 years. People have predicted this, and now you got another guy adding to it. At the same time, you have forces of government falsely charging Donald Trump with 34 felonies. These were fake charges, by the way, not real, because there was no underlying crime for the misdemeanors to be upgraded to felonies. And people don't know this. Trump was falsely accused of sexual abuse, civilly charged in New York. Forum shopping is so insane. I'm pretty sure the lawyers all know civil war is coming, and they knew this before anybody else because of forum shopping. Are you familiar with forum shopping?
No.
When you file a lawsuit, the lawyers will take a look at the issue, determining which direction it leans politically, and then say, here's the jurisdiction you need to sue in. So it's been true for a while for various reasons. Like, Delaware is very corporate friendly, or, New York is going to. Now it's literally, I've had lawyers say, if you bring this lawsuit in New York, you'll lose in 2 seconds no matter what. Even if all the evidence says you're true and correct, they'll simply say he's a conservative and the jury will vote against you. Or the judge will find some way to exclude evidence and make it against you. They can see all of that happening. When you have former elements of the government and current inside government actively working against, in a seditious conspiracy, Donald Trump, the far left shooting cops and shooting 2 cops shot in the past 3 days, and an ambush at the ICE facility that resulted in that cop getting shot. The riots, the Tesla riots, the immigration riots, even the Palestine riot stuff. It really does look like things are going to continue heating up, and there's no reason to assume or expect things to simmer down and the left to stop. If Trump decides to crack down on these shootings at cops and these riots, as he's already indicated he will with the Marines, unprecedented move. Well, not unprecedented, but very rare move by the president. When he does this, the left escalates their tactics. I'm curious what you think, what you guys think, if these predictions are correct.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I think that the U.S. will actually fracture, but I do think that if California were to, say, hypothetically, California were to decide to declare its independence, the proper and the actual course of action by the federal government would be to activate the National Guard and send them in to California and say, no, you're not. Historically, that's what's happened, and that's exactly what should happen. All right, let's say
Zoran Mamdani uses government resources in New York to stop ICE. So Trump says, issue an indictment and have him arrested. What do you think? How do you think Democrats react to the arrest of a New York man?
Out, they'll say that it was a law, that it was unconstitutional. That they'd probably talk about the 10th Amendment, which is ridiculous for them to even mention the 10th Amendment. But they would be apoplectic,
especially if they're electing him on purpose to do this.
Right. So what do they do?
What does the administration do?
No. What does the left do if Trump arrests
what they've already
a mayor?
done? I'd say they turn it up.
Look, the left is not. This is Look, they are not an organized armed force, right? I mean, their doctrine is they've got to have street violence going on. The occasional killings, the burnings. They've got to have street violence going on in order to be able to apply institutional pressure. They're not organized in order to actually be able to fight a war against the U.S. Army. So they're not going to try to fight a war against the U.S. Army.
Was the Syrian Free Army or al-Nusra or ISIS?
No, I don't think that we're there yet in America. Now, I'm not saying
certainly, but it only took a year.
Yeah, hold on.
For Syria.
Look, it is certainly possible that if you import enough people from the Middle East and other cultures where tribal warfare, arming your family, arming your clan, arming your tribe against the system, it's possible that that's going to happen. But it looks to me like it's going to happen in Britain or in France first before it happens in the United States. Look, I think Trump is right that the immigration issue is even here, even on the Civil War thing, the immigration issue is a key issue because you need to have critical mass of people who are not just countercultural, but they actually have a belief system. They're willing to die. And that question was raised before. How many people on the left are actually willing to die? So, okay, so there's a few.
They don't think they're going to die.
No, I think in the Middle East, if you're talking about Syria, they know they're going to die.
Indeed.
They know they're going to die.
But the issue is you don't have to be willing to die. You also have to be ignorant of the fact that you could die.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, ignorant of the fact that you could die?
When the left goes out with guns to shoot at people, they don't think they'll die. When they show up with Molotov cocktails and hand them out to people, these people are as dumb as a box of rocks. I understand in the Middle East, they live in this perpetual decades-long or hundreds of thousands of years of conflict. But when these lawyers in New York are handing out Molotov cocktails, do any of those people who took the Molotov cocktails realize that simply holding that could put a bullet in your head? They don't think that. If these people genuinely feared that they would die throwing Molotov cocktails, they would not do it.
Okay, but that actually is the challenge right now. How is the administration going to convince, not the few lunatics, the most radical? How are they going to convince the sort of broader population? How are they going to convince them that if you hold a Molotov cocktail, you could die? Okay,
you can't.
Well, that's assuming that these people can be convinced in the first place. I don't know that they can.
They go out to these riots and they LARP. It's live action role play.
But how many? How many of them are there?
Hundreds of thousands.
Well,
active protesting on a regular basis, and then probably several million that engage in ancillary protest efforts by the direct action groups.
Okay. Well, we're really getting into placing bets on things that none of us can actually. I mean, it's really difficult to assess things, and these things. Look, I definitely agree that the potential for civil war is real. It's real. It's escalating. It's motivated. I actually do think it's foreign funded, so it's not in any way a game. It really, really could get there, but I think that the likelihood that in a situation in which people are killed, it's Kent State. All right, we're back in the late 60s, early 70s. People don't remember that the United States had thousands of bombings, not hundreds, thousands of bombings by leftist radicals. And Nixon did succeed in putting an end to it. Now, I agree with you. This is not the same. The country is much farther gone than that.
Hyperpolarized.
It's hyperpolarized. Completely agree with you. Still, the question: how many people are really going to show up once it's the U.S. Army, once it's the Marines, and people know they can get really killed?
How many people are in the California National Guard?
You think the California National Guard is going to revolt against against the administration.
Why did the Virginia Army raise arms against the Union?
The Virginia Army thought that they were defending their homes.
And the generals of the Confederacy were all trained at West Point and were friends with the Union generals.
Yep.
Again, something we bring up literally all the time is the first Battle of Bull Run. They picnicked outside of it because they said exactly what you're saying right now.
Yep.
It can't happen. Virginia's not going to shoot Maryland. It's just ridiculous to think. And then what happened when the question is right now.
Tim, I'm not saying it can't happen.
No, I know.
I'm saying it can happen.
Right.
What I don't know is you use the word LARPing. I think it's a good word. What's the balance between the true believers who want revolution and are willing to give anything for it, and the people who are play acting and they'll run for cover? What is that balance?
9-1. But what happens when some dumb college LARPer takes a bullet in the back of the head because they were at a violent riot that was shooting at cops? And they get shot by a National Guardsman or a Marine. And then what happens to all of that kid's friends and family? And then what happens to the rest of the LARPers who are like, this is not a game.
Yeah,
Trump is killing people.
It's a kindling stokes the flame type situation, in my opinion. And I don't think that we're going to see a real escalation like what you're talking about until we've gotten to that point. But I do believe that it is eventually going to turn into a play adult games, win adult prizes situation. And when we get to that point, that's when the people that even if they didn't think or know that they wanted to die are going to start risking their lives to get involved. And at that point, that's where we lose all control.
Eric Prince was talking to me about a variety of issues. I asked him, this conversation about civil war has been going on for 8 years. I certainly did not create it, though I probably talk about it, more than most people. Whenever the story comes up, I caveat this with, guys, Professor just came out claiming it. The news media is all picking it up, so we talk about it. I asked him, does it look like the United States is tracking similar to the countries that you've had operations in? And he said, the one thing I can tell you, everybody I've worked with says it's overnight. Everything appears normal, and then you wake up one morning and the power's out and the internet doesn't work. That's it. So everybody assumes there's going to be a gradual buildup, which has never been the case. And I've made the point about being in Egypt during the Second Revolution. There was only a few thousand people that triggered the revolution in Tahrir Square. 2 blocks away, I'm standing as a guy at McDonald's watching a soccer game, completely oblivious. We drove to the mall. We went shopping. Everything was normal. And a few thousand people triggered a revolution. That's it. And then the military came in and said, we can't keep doing this. So they decided to go and massacre all the Muslims because the Muslim Brotherhood was a minority party that kept winning because they were the plurality, or at least the largest voting bloc. The concern that I have in the United States is, once again, gradually then suddenly, hyperpolarization. We have this report of Democrats saying their constituents want them to be violent or at least risk getting shot, which implies engaging in violence. I do think it's fair to say many of these people do not understand just how bad war can be because they're LARPers. But that actually, I think, exemplifies the risk. People, when you look at these guys who are like war veterans and PMCs and contractors and stuff, they'll say it. You don't want to fight. You do not want to be in this situation, man. These people don't know what they're asking for. People who've truly experienced the conflict and the violence want to avoid it because it is not any way to live. But these leftists who LARP and go around with Molotov cocktails, they don't understand what it means to be engulfed in flames and die. They don't understand that these 2 New York lawyers handing out Molotov cocktails, people are taking them. They don't understand. You can accidentally immolate yourself, and people do it all the time. They're playing a stupid game. And because they don't understand the consequences, they don't realize that it takes a single Molotov or gunshot to trigger a total economic collapse or governmental collapse. That's why you're more likely for it to happen. So I suppose what I'm saying is, I understand you're saying it could happen. I think that people confuse what it means that we are dangerously close with indicators that we are nowhere near, such as that point Oh, but none of these people actually want to die. Right, which means they're more likely to run up to a cop screaming, waving a baton in their face because they're like, nothing's going to happen. And then a cop shoots a guy, bang, he drops dead. Then the left starts screaming. They're armed already and shooting ICE officers, and they start opening fire back. And then how long till we get a story of a shootout between protesters? I'm sorry. Story already happened on Friday when armed far leftists went to an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, and when the cops came out to confront them, they shot the cop in the neck, then arrested the people. So we've already gotten one of these types of moments. I hope, I beg, and I pray that I'm completely wrong, and that's it. The wake-up call for the left, they say, holy crap, don't go to these events, they're shooting cops. Then Monday morning, a guy went to an ICE facility with a rifle and shot another cop.
You're not wrong. Your whole analysis is right. I'm just asking the following. We have an administration. It has leadership. It has a lot of good people in it, right? It's not just one good person. Astonishingly, there are hundreds of good people in this administration, and I feel like your description is leaving out the challenge to national leadership. There is a challenge. I don't know if they can pull it off. I don't know if Syria can be avoided. I have no clue. What I do know is that you remember right after the election, right after the 2024 election, there was this shock. There was this defeat. There was this. It went on for a couple of months of a feeling of hopelessness on the left. Of course, it's not permanent. It's never permanent. But that feeling of hopelessness, it's possible for political moves, including military moves. It's possible for military and political moves if they're done well, if they're explained in a way that sweeps most of the people with them. If Trump can put these things down with violence while keeping a majority with him, it's possible to win that election. It's possible to cause a more extensive demoralization. It's not going to be permanent, but that's what he's playing for. He's playing for what are the steps that I can take that will allow me to get past the next election, and then I can take more steps. That's the game he's playing.
Well, his election is it, right? So J.D. Vance will be next.
No, I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about the congressional election.
Right.
I'm talking about the question. No, I'm talking about the. So question. No, he thinks that if he can have a bigger majority in Congress, then he can do more. That's the whole argument with.
So let me ask you a potentiality. Trump just federalized the California National Guard to command, and they sued. At first, the order was stayed, then it was stayed, then the stay was stayed, and Trump was able to retain control of the California National Guard. When you ask, who would fight, when the Army comes in, how many people want to fight? The question is, well, how big is the California National Guard? Why? Same thing in the first, I shouldn't say the first, but in the Civil War.
24,000, by the way.
24,000. So in the Civil War, the question asked by, I can't remember if it was Jackson or Lee, was, do I defend my nation or my home? And in the end, I had to choose my home. And that's all anyone will ever do. If you're in the National Guard and you own a house and you have a wife and a child and they are in California, and Donald Trump says, you will take orders from me now, you'd probably say, okay, we've been federalized. Then the governor, maybe it's not Newsom, maybe it's the next more radical person, maybe it is Newsom, says, no, a court ordered you no, do not take those orders from the president. Who do they choose? They choose their home every time. Governor could seize your house from you, could put you out on the street. They can issue charges against you at the state. The state has command, and they're arguing for control. Now, Donald Trump can claim he is federalizing the California National Guard, but the law enforcement apparatus against those people is going to be state level. And the question then becomes, who do you listen to? Do you support the president or the governor where your home is? And if you say no to Trump, what happens? And if you say no to the governor or to the state, what happens? Where is the greatest risk? The reason why in the Civil War they chose their home states was because they were like, I'll lose my land, I'll lose my farm, I'll lose my family. And then I'll go be what? A refugee in New York with nowhere to live? That makes no sense.
All that's true, but it's not the whole story. Virginians thought that Virginia was some kind of a nation. I mean, this
Indeed.
This takes you into the nationalism issue. I don't mean that they thought Virginia is a jurisdiction, a legal jurisdiction independent from the federal jurisdiction, and therefore it's legitimate for me to raise an army and fight. That's not the issue. The question is the people, the leadership especially of Virginia, who were they actually loyal to? Who were they? And we know the answer. The answer is that they were loyal to Virginia. Mm-hmm. Are you sure that we've got that in America anymore?
I would argue that we don't need loyalty to a state in a fractured culture that cares not for its neighbor. When the only thing people care about is that they get theirs, it's substantially worse. That is, when I was in Venezuela, I got to see the National Guard charge on student protesters. Why would they do that? Because they're guaranteed food. They don't care about you. They don't care about anything other than I must get my access. And so the issue I see here is the reason why the left says don't serve cops is because they want those cops to feel local pressure. They want a cop walking into a donut shop to be refused and then say, I hate this job and I want to quit. And it worked in the Pacific Northwest. Viral videos, one of a cop stopping at a light and the protesters are screaming at him. And he says, you won, you win, I quit. That was like in, I think, like 2020 or something. That's what they want to happen. So if you're in the National Guard and you were ordered by Trump to stand and watch guard over a facility, and then you have this critical mass, thousands of people, including your own mayor, screaming in your face, you choose. Now, I don't know where we're at right now, but I will tell you, for the average person who is like, look, man, I don't know, I just needed a job. And I'm going to say this. I have tremendous respect for people who serve. Many of them do it for the right reasons. Some of them just need jobs. There are a lot of people that I've met who are in the Army who are like, I don't know, it was a good income and it was training and I got to go to school and there's nothing more to it. So imagine you're in California National Guard and you get ordered by Trump to guard a facility or to go out and defend CBP. He is allowed to federalize if the laws are not being enforced. Then the mayor shows up and starts saying all of these people, you are in violation. There was a court order. You're not supposed to be obeying Trump. And now you're torn between your local community where you actually have risk of being ostracized and enforcement against your property and your family, not to mention a brick to the face. And the federal government you've never seen and is 3,000, 4,000 miles away. I'm not saying we're at the point right now where the National Guard is going to be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, whatever. I'm saying that's the potentiality for which, as this professor is pointing out, when J.D. Vance, in the future, hypothetically, sends in external National Guard to enforce the law in California because the state is declaring independence or whatever they're doing, at that point, if you live in California, what's your decision? It's not about loyalty to your state. It's about saying, I own a home in California. If I decide not to be a part of this, I will be living in a tent with my children. Where? In Nebraska? And so people are going to be like, I just want my house. We'll see. We're going to go to your chats, my friends. So smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. We'll read what you have to say. But the members-only uncensored portion is coming up at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. And we're going to grab your chats now and see what you got going on. All right, we got Shane H. Wilder says the flooding in Texas has been horrific. If anyone wants to help in the relief efforts in Kerrville, you can donate to the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country at communityfoundation.net. Our team right now is looking to send coffee down to first responders and anybody who might need it. I know coffee isn't the most important of things to send, but it's something we do have ready to go, and certainly it will be at least minimally helpful to people who are looking for a cup of coffee. All right. Let's see what else we got. Evan for US says Palmetto State Armory has mentioned that a lawsuit has been filed that could help lead to the end of the NFA. No tax equals NFA is unconstitutional. Brandon Herrera was right. LFG. Interesting. Agreed. So the argument they're making is that if you've taken the tax off it, then why are you even filing?
Yeah, the Supreme Court's found multiple times that the ability of the federal government to actually even have the NFA is because it's a tax. The federal government has the power to tax, but the Second Amendment ostensibly prevents them from regulating firearms. So the Supreme Court says, well, they can because they can tax. And so the other stuff is just to prove that you've paid the tax. Once you get rid of the tax, what they're saying is, well, now there's no more, there's no legal way that the federal government can have the NFA. So there has been multiple lawsuits filed. I didn't catch who he said, but I know that GOA is...
Palmetto State Armory.
Yeah, Palmetto State's got one. I know that GOA's got one. So this is the slower way to get rid of the NFA or the get the Short Act and the Hearing Protection Act through, but it at least it will force the courts to have make a decision on it. And because of precedent that they've set, the courts themselves have set, they can't just say, oh, well, now it's fine,
Indeed. Rich Poos says U.S. State Coast Guard rescue diver Scott Ruskin on his first mission saved 165 souls. He deserves the Coast Guard Distinguished Service Medal.
Stud.
Epic.
He does.
Story, man. It's fascinating to me that there are conservatives and liberals both claiming it's climate change, directly or indirectly. There are conservatives going, no way water can rise that fast. And liberals are going, see, told you, climate change. And I'm like, guys, it's a flash flood. Flash floods happen. That's why they're called flash floods.
I was going to say, that's the name. Like, this kind of stuff happens. Unfortunately, this was like, I guess, once in a 100-year.
It was like, what was it, 4 a.m. or something? The water rose and
they were sending out the notifications. I think the first one started going in the evening. But the real, this is really, really bad. They were going at 11, 12, 1 o'clock. So most people were sleeping.
Yep.
And so it's a terrible situation. But it's not like there wasn't efforts by the powers that be to notify people and stuff. It just so happened that when the things got really bad, people were not looking at their phones. They were likely sleeping, and it cost them their lives.
David Flores says, I worked as a corrections officer in both Kentucky and Maryland. Dudes have murdered their cellmates after locked in at night, slept in the cell with the body, then got breakfast. A killer could have been locked in. Indeed. Not to mention the video proved nothing is a minute missing, whatever. Dimension 14B says, if the Trump admin can be this stupidly dishonest over the Epstein evidence, they cannot be trusted on any other issue. There will be no accountability. What a weird story.
I mean, even if this is all the people that are critical of the Trump administration are correct, right? Even still, it's still better than Kamala Harris and the stuff that he's done on the border and the stuff that he's doing trying to get the illegal immigrants out of the country is way better than anything the Democrats would have done. So I understand, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be mad. Like, people should have a they're justifiably pissed off about the Epstein stuff. But even if all the worst things that they can say about the administration are true, all that stuff would have been the same with the Kamala Harris administration. She wouldn't have put any information out either. And you would still have all of the illegal immigrants here. There wouldn't be any self-deporting. There would still be an influx of people at the southern border. So I understand you're mad and you have every right to be, but Donald Trump is still a net positive.
Here's an interesting one. Sailor Motoko says, I know it's not the most moral thing to do, but if it were me, I'd be using every piece of info from Epstein to ram through my agenda and make America great again. When you're given the power, use it. Could it be that Trump said, all of this information gives us power over billionaires, millionaires, Fortune 500s. They'll never oppose me again. He has the one ring, the pedophile equivalent of the one ring.
It would be nice to think that he had that kind of leverage. I mean, the office of the president is already incredibly influential. When the president, calls up a leader of industry and says, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "I'm looking for this kind of result from your industry. I want you to have this policy," or whatever. They're gonna respond, and it takes a very strong will to say, "No, Mr. President, I'm not going to do that." But to have that kind of leverage over international high-level government people, I mean, it would be interesting.
You got to say this. That's the best interpretation of the that gets the prize.
It almost, it's like if Trump basically has these people like enslaved, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it's prison or you work for me now. And he can control their companies and stuff like that.
Hey, look, you got to.
Maybe that's what the left really fears.
I mean, if you're one of these people, are you going to say no?
No, exercise power when you have it.
To hell with that. Expose me. Do your worst. No, you're not going to say that.
I like my infinity pool and my 65-foot yacht. So.
You're going to bend the knee. 100%.
I like to see my family when I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then they just tell Trump you can do whatever you want. All right. Samurai Villain says, if you're fat and slow and get in a fight, you have to use your weight against your opponent as an advantage versus disadvantage, leveraging bad situations. Well, sure. You know. Smacky says, wife gave birth to our third at 4 a.m. Only sad thing is I didn't get to announce live on the show as is tradition. Well, congratulations.
Congrats.
So many babies. Whenever someone's having a baby, they watch the show and then post it so we can read it.
I've noticed we were on the flight back from Chicago, and there was a baby crying, and since my girl got pregnant and I've got one on the way, it is far less irritating. I'm like, oh, poor guy, you know, as opposed to man, shut that baby up. I'm like, oh, what's the poor little guy, you know?
I've never been annoyed by crying babies.
No,
I am not annoyed by crying babies.
You ever had one going on during a movie? Well, I'm sure you have. You watch movies at home, but
Yeah.
in like a movie theater or something, I'm like, hey, you know,
No, I just
do something with your kid. But like,
it's like rain to me. It's like babies make noise, I guess.
I've also been exposed to more crying babies recently as a result of being here, and I do find that I am being a little more like, I'm becoming a lot more used to it. So I kind of agree with you there.
you know, babies are good.
All right, what do we got going on here? St. Miles says, America is a land of gun culture, and we know how to use them. Indeed. Shergall says, look at the events that happened before the Kent State massacre. What was that specifically? Was that the bombings?
I don't know what led up to the Kent. I don't even know why the National Guard was on the Kent State campus. Was it because of integrating?
They were protesting, I think. So they deployed the National Guard. It's been a while since I read about it. Do you remember what happened? It was their response to the protests. And then there's a conspiracy theory that the guards gave a countdown and an order to shoot or something like that. I wonder if that actually helped stop the violence.
It was Vietnam War protests. So.
Yeah. I wonder if the fear of getting shot and killed or paralyzed actually made people stop showing up.
I think so.
That's wild.
I think that's the standard reading of what happened.
Wow. Crazy.
Guess there was an ROTC building burnt on May 2nd. The governor, James Rhodes, was being pressured to deploy the National Guard.
All right. Midwest Mystery says, shout out to the Discord shows and Cast Brew Coffee. Shout out, guys. You got to go to timcast.com and join our Discord server. If you go to dccomedyloft.com, you can buy tickets to our upcoming events by clicking the events and finding the event. Or go to timcast.com and join us. Be a member. Members there's 30 free tickets available. I mean, they could largely be gone, so you got to get in there. And then I think when we announce the debate with the people on the 26, it's going to sell out instantly. Yeah, there's a couple names I can't say because we're like coordinating travel and getting it set up. It looks pretty good, but I don't want to say just yet. And we'll have flyers for it once it's done.
You won't need them.
Probably not. Sean H. says, I am over this story. I would so much rather the American people focus their energy on something that benefits us. Even if Epstein was alive, he still wouldn't face justice. Just look at the Diddy case.
Yeah.
Well, not guilty. Yep.
I do agree. It's been like a 4+ year distraction ongoing that, I mean, if it proceeds any further past this, it just kind of seems ridiculous.
I understand people's motivation to see guilty people punished, but most people wouldn't have a significant change in their day-to-day lives should there be people outed having been found to have.
That's just closure at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go. Will S. says, I think this Epstein betrayal is what finally put me in the street and convinced me to march and rally. I hope I'm not alone on this. I think the challenge is largely, the Epstein stuff is a generality. We have a general idea of what he was doing. We don't know the specifics. We don't know who was involved. We don't know when, how. And that's the ultimate challenge. We want that information, and they won't give it to us. Claiming there's a bunch of videos, it's like, okay, who filmed it? Epstein was with the kids? Was it Ghislaine? Who flew the kids in? Is she a pilot? Is he a pilot? They flew him. They did it all themselves? Come on. What about his butler?
I've always wondered about flight manifests. Like, was there none of that?
They had it all.
Yeah, there were manifests.
Flight logs. They have it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, can you not just comb through
the
amount of flight manifests that
remember,
just
because someone went to Epstein's
Well, it doesn't.
island,
Obviously, it doesn't make them
just
guilty,
because someone flew on the plane.
Yeah,
Going to the island, I'm going to make some assumptions about what you were doing there.
Yeah.
Just because they were on the plane doesn't mean they're guilty of anything. So.
No, absolutely not.
RFK and his family flew on the plane. They tried doing this thing now because the plane still exists and it's in a different fleet, claiming people flew on Epstein's plane because it's after the fact. Such scumbag media garbage.
I just think it's a base for people to keep an eye on if this doesn't resolve itself appropriately, you know.
What do we got here? Sergeant H. USMC says, I work for the FBOP. Those doors do not have windows, so there is likely no inmates in those rooms. It's in segregated housing. Officers are required to do 30-minute rounds to observe inmates' well-being. So what was that video of? Just a random door?
It looked like it was just a video of a guard change. And I mean,
I don't know. One guy was moving the garbage and moving stuff.
Yeah, he looked like the guy that came in and handed over what looked like coats or something to the guard that had already left the room. But there's also a minute missing there, so we don't really know.
Bloodbase says, if the Democrats covered it all up, why did Pam Bondi say the now allegedly non-existent client list was on her desk? I actually think it's not unfair to say that Pam Bondi was just bloviating and she was trying to talk big, like, we're getting it done. Trump said, release the documents, and she was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then just is bad at media.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like Carolyn Levitt said, she wasn't referring to the list when she said it was on my desk. She was referring to all of the documents in general and what they had, they released. I don't know. I would not want to be in that administration right now. You got a lot of questions to answer that you can't. To be honest, I'd have tremendous. If I was press secretary and they were like, who made this memo? I'd be like, no idea. It's weird, right? They'd be like, okay, what's up with this video? I'd be like, it seems to be a video of nothing. You know, honestly, I couldn't tell you what was going on, but it doesn't make any sense at all. What am I going to say? If Carolyn Levitt said that, I'd have infinitely more respect for her. I'd be like, well, you know, because like what I don't understand is, like, come on, imagine you're standing in a room and there's three people all staring at you, and you let one rip, and it's massive, and you even lift your cheek, and then you look dead in the eyes of the other guy and go, it was you. Well, I didn't do it. They're like, who are you trying to convince? Okay, at the very least, you just be like, I got to be honest, I ate a lot of Taco Bell. Sorry, guys. Like if Carolyn Levitt came out and been like, we don't have good answers, none of this makes sense, and I have no idea what to say to you guys. Saying what she said doesn't convince anybody of anything. It's just like, look, we know this is BS. Come on.
Well, with what they just released to us, why do we think at all that Levitt should have any more information than the American people now have? Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is, too, with any press secretary, I say this all the time, their job is spin. Their job is not I don't care if it's Spicer or Levitt or Psaki or whoever or Karine Jean-Pierre. She was miserable at that job, by the way. She was the worst.
She was bad.
Kayleigh McEnany was the best.
She was awful.
She had a binder full of news stories, and she's like, nope, debunked, boom. Read it and weep. But largely, it's the PR release for the administration's operation, so they're always going to try and put it in to their benefit.
Yeah, that's their job.
Yeah. What have we here? IF says, if you recall a few years back, there was a warehouse fire in New York City Harbor that some claimed was an FBI storage for evidence. I'm willing to bet $100 some of the evidence was Epstein. Maybe. Skull Crusher says, this is my first ever super chat. I'm donating my kidney to my wife, and we are having a benefit to help us with expenses. I know this is a long shot, but we have an FB group, Amber's Angels. It has our story and info on how to support. Wow, man. That is truly noble. I wish you the best. I hope everything works out. And everyone check out Amber's Angels, the Facebook group. And best of luck to you both. What have we here? Michael Thompson says, why do you think the Republicans continually try to put messaging out that will get community noted? Do you think they will ever be serious about immediate balancing of the budget and not kicking the can down the road? Nope. I don't.
They're just going to inflate the currency. You're going to end up seeing massive inflation to take care of the debt or whatever, because no one's ever going to seriously do anything, because the old people are the ones that vote. They're your unfunded liabilities are all from Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And
another funny thing about the release from the DOJ is the video ends at 6:40, and the time of death of Epstein was declared at 6:39. So I was just wondering, that's a very specific time of death to be called. So when paramedics find a body like an hour later, do they then say, based on how he looks, he died at 9:42? Or do they say within the past half hour or hour?
Yeah,
I thought they just called time of death at the point where they realized he was dead.
That's what I thought, which would imply when the video ended at 6:40, there should have already been paramedics in the building checking him, saying he is dead.
Yeah.
No idea.
I don't know either, but it's nothing about the this Epstein stuff makes any sense at all. I feel like the administration botched so much stuff when it came to putting out information. They were too busy trying to satisfy people that had a desire to see see bad things there.
Yeah, Brandon is correct.
Yeah.
So paramedics, when they find a dead body, the call time of the death is not the time the person died. It is the time it was officially pronounced. Meaning when they find a body and see it's dead, they announce the time of death when they discovered the body. I think if it's like a body that was several hours old, they'll say this was, the time of death is when they discover it. But then the autopsy will argue when they think the death may have actually occurred within a certain hour range. That being said, they called the time of death at 6:39 for Epstein, but nobody came or went at that period. So how did they know? Psychics. The cops had a psychic come in and she was just like, "Oh, Epstein is dead. He died right now." And they're like, "Quick, we better get in there." And they ran in the cell and note the time. Well, the truth is we determine time of death by a psychic. She's very powerful. All right, everybody, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone. We're going to that uncensored call-in show right now. So make sure you go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL and use promo code TIM10 to watch the uncensored portion of the show. Always fun, always funny, not so family-friendly. And, of course, if you want to call into the show, you go to timcast.com and join the Discord server. And a big community, tens of thousands of people all hanging out. They're going to help you do stuff. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Yoram, do you want to shout anything out?
You mean do I want to advertise my book?
Sure.
Thank you for the invitation. Happens that I have a copy of The Virtue of Nationalism. This is a new expanded edition of The Virtue of Nationalism 7 years later.
Oh, wow.
With an introduction that tells you all about the history of how we went from people calling, Trump and Brexit insane and primitive and unprincipled to an actual movement of professors, intellectuals, policy people, activists who know the philosophy of nationalism. They know the history of nationalism. They think it's legitimate. And they're not willing for this word to be thrown out anymore.
Right on. Sounds good. What's going on, brother?
My name is Brandon Miner. I am the producer and co-host of Inverted World Live. You can catch us Monday through Thursday on Rumble and YouTube from 10 to midnight Eastern. And it is a live call-in show, so feel free to participate. We love it. And thank you guys for having me.
I heard Tuesday's show is going to be pretty crazy, right?
Tuesday's show is going to be pretty crazy. We did have to do a pre-tape for tonight's show and for tomorrow with Shane out of town. Tonight is going to be about the JFK assassination, and tomorrow we talk to a self-proclaimed, I believe, sergeant of the Fourth Reich of Antarctica. So make sure you don't miss it.
Antarctica, nice. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record is called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Thanks for hanging out.